Good morning and welcome to Morning Gospel Fuel with Mr. G. It is Sunday, September 12th, the 24th Sunday of Ordinary Time, and it is the feast day of Saint Albay, who in English is Saint Elvis, and he is regarded as the chief pre-patrician saint of Ireland, um, as he died in the early 6th century, and he was a bishop, and he is venerated as one of the four great patrons of Ireland, and specifically he's the patron saint of the Archdiocese of Cashel and Emly, which are both in Ireland. So that is Saint Elvis. Today's gospel on this beautiful Sunday morning is Mark chapter 8, verses 27 through 35. Let's begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit, amen. Now Jesus and his disciples set out for the village of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter said to him in reply, "You are the Messiah." And he warned them not to tell anyone about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed and rise after 3 days. He spoke this openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. At this he turned around and looking at his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." He summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it." All right, this is in Mark's gospel, which is the shortest gospel of the four gospels. This section 3 of this, is called "The Mystery Begins to Be Revealed," meaning things are going to amp up a little bit here in Mark's gospel on these Sunday readings, and you can see this. Jesus knows what the disciples are talking about behind closed doors and without Jesus even there. Jesus knows what they're talking about. He knows their doubts. He knows their worries. He knows their fears. He knows everything, and he also knows what everybody in the crowds are talking about him. But notice how Jesus continues to ask questions and say, "Who do you say that I am?" So he knows their hearts, and he knows what they're discussing. But Jesus is still being one who invites. He is trying to invite them to learn and understand more about him so that they can learn on their own, in their own time, knowing that it's not fully going to click quite yet. So just notice the patience that Jesus has, but then also the assertiveness too whenever Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan," because what Peter says, Jesus doesn't like, and Jesus isn't just going to say, um, "Okay, yeah, okay, Peter, I understand. We'll just go with what you say." You know, I know that but because Peter, even if you look at Peter's side of the story and from his perspective, Peter's defending Jesus. Like Peter is rebuking what Jesus is telling him because Peter doesn't want his best friend, his new best friend, Jesus, to suffer. Because Jesus is beginning to tell them this of what's going to happen. He's going to be killed pretty gruesomely, and then he's going to rise. Um, but he does. So Peter is doing it out of love, but yet Jesus is still, said, "Look, this is what's going to take place, whether you like it or not, because this is God's will." And that's what it's all centered around, is God's will. And also God's timing. Jesus knew, Peter didn't. And Peter didn't know until even later. In fact, all the disciples, that's why Jesus came and had to be here on earth after he resurrected, but before he ascended into heaven on Pentecost. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. So I think what I think our challenge for ourselves should be is that know and realize that through all of our confusions and through all of our frustrations, worries, doubts, fears, anxieties, whatever it is. Um, Jesus is right there. He's walking the path with us. And we need to take all of the stuff that's going on internally and bring it to Him in prayer. So, whatever it is that you're going through on this wonderful Sunday morning, because we're all human, bring it to the Lord and be grateful for all the good things that He's done and what He's doing right now, even without us knowing. Because that's why He came. Have a great day. God bless. And keep it real. In the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen.